Our top story, officials released the video from the shooting in Roslindale by the Boston Police and FBI. The video shows authorities approaching Usaama Rahim last Tuesday morning outside the CVS on Washington Street. Then, before the shooting, they abruptly moved back. Boston Police Commissioner William Evans said Rahim had a large knife in striking distance and he defended the use of lethal force. He said authorities who fired the shots made the right call because Rahim was intent on taking out somebody. Some clergy leaders and relatives have asked whether Rahim could have been stopped without lethal force. Our guest is another clergy leader who watched the video today and last week. He's active with the Boston 10-Point Coalition, along with being the associate pastor at the Azusa Christian Community in Dorchester. We'd like to welcome Reverend Mark Scott. Thank you very much for being with us,
Thank
Reverend.
you for having me.
First of all, talk about the video. We've shown a little bit of it on tonight's show, and there's not a lot I think I can distinguish in what's going on here, but what did you draw from it?
Well, the first thing is that, when the event was even unfolding, the Commissioner of Police, William Evans, was reaching out to a number of members of the community, civil rights leaders, clergy leaders, political leaders, and we were able to see what the public is seeing now and what the family saw later on in the week within 24 hours, a little bit more than 24 hours of the event. And I think the two big things I was looking to see was he shot in the back or was he shot in the front? That was the main thing I needed to see. Was where in his body was he struck. Also one of the things that's clear, you're right, the image is distant. It was a rainy morning that morning and the camera is located some distance, maybe 50 yards or so away from where the folks were. But you can clearly see that the officers are backing up, they're retreating. So those were the two big things that I needed to see on Wednesday morning. Because what happened on Tuesday is I'm sitting in a coffee shop and somebody walks in and says, "Hey, did you hear what happened in Roslindale?" And then you go online and then sitting with somebody else, we pull up a Facebook posting and it says he was shot in the back. So I'm going to have a very different reaction to hearing the police shot somebody in the back. People in the neighborhood are going to have a very different reaction if somebody shot in the back than even the not quite 100% clear images that we saw on the video. So that was very important to see.
The police have repeatedly said that Rahim had a large military knife. The police department issued a photograph of the knife, but it is hard to make anything as clear on that video.
We can't see it. We can't see the knife on the video, but he's coming at them. And this is an ongoing investigation. So one of the feedback that I've gotten from folk in the community is slow down, right? We're trying to get to the truth. We have to do the investigation. We'll let that happen. The district attorney is the person who is going to make the decision as to whether or not it was a justifiable shooting. Our district attorney is actually I commend him for the amount of transparency. I mean, all of this, once they're done, will be available on his website. And because the FBI agents were involved immediately, the FBI is going to be doing its own investigation, and that information will be made available. So we can't see everything today, but we'll see more in the future. And I think we have to just be patient and wait until we get all of the facts before we say too much.
The family members, at least their representatives, what they caution here is that Rahim might not have been doing anything in particular, maybe nothing more than going up to a bus stop, and there were these people in law enforcement who approach him. They say in formation. Do you think you have to allow that maybe there was something about the way he was approached that might have triggered a very strong, maybe excessively strong reaction on his part?
But yes, I mean, I understand that, right? And I'm sympathetic to that. But I think that we have to really pay attention to what happened in the moment. So given all of that, let's just say he's just walking to a bus stop, he's startled, he has a very strong reaction, and he begins to come at the police. He had the knife, apparently. It seems that he has a knife. It seems that they would have, according to the commissioner, and this is what we'll find out more about, that they repeatedly say, drop the knife. What is reported and alleged is that he says, they say, you drop your weapon. He said, well, you drop yours. And in that instance, and it's given it's a very large knife, right? And so you'd almost call it a sword. I mean, it's a very menacing weapon. And in that kind of close proximity, it almost, I would have to go as far as say that it would have been irresponsible of the police if they had not have defended themselves, if they had not have fired.
I'm sure you've heard this before. There have been people saying, well, maybe there could have been another way the police could have neutralized the threat, whether it's using a taser or shooting for another part of the body.
Yeah, I mean, that happened on Tuesday. We have our prayer meeting on Tuesday night. It came up during our prayer meeting as something to pray about. We're praying for peace in the city. And one of my members said, well, why didn't they shoot him in the leg? And so, I gave her something of an answer, but I spoke to the police about that. Well, what about it? Why didn't you shoot him in the leg? And so, one of the things you see in the video is there's somebody who has been shopping and they're getting in a car and they're driving off. They're right very proximate. A school bus comes by, no doubt has school children. I drive by there all the time. I've been in the Dunkin' Donuts to get a cup of coffee. It's 7:30 in the morning. So they're not in a position, and it's should note that the use of force policy of the Boston Police Department is posted on their website. And the kind of things you'll see on that website are that when they shoot, it's this last recourse, and they shoot for the largest mass of the body, center mass, right? And they shoot to stop and neutralize the threat. So given that, they can't sort of like, let me aim for his leg, because if they miss, they could hit somebody walking by on the street. If they miss, they may miss altogether, and then it's too late. He's upon them, right? So I really do think it's a very unfortunate. I mean, I grieve for the family. I grieve for the community. I grieve for the Muslim community. I join them in that. But in that moment, with that individual, I don't see how they had any other option, from what I can see with the video.
This afternoon, actually this morning, Commissioner Evans said the officers who engaged in violence, they made the right decision. They just had to do that. Do you feel that he was right in saying that?
I would have to say that the commissioner is correct, based on what I've seen, right? I can only draw a judgment on a video where there's, as we said, there's a distance. They try to enlarge it, but of course that makes it more pixelated. So based on what we've seen so far, right? I mean, this was last week's event. We're almost 1 week into it, so we're going to have to continue to learn. But based on what we've seen so far, it does appear that the officers did not have any other option.
One would hope that this is the last case we ever see that involves the possibility of terrorist activity, yes. But in the event it's not the last, we seem to be into a new frontier here, because we're not talking about the gang unit dealing with people that they know about. I mean, this is new territory for law enforcement and the community.
Yeah, we are in a new era, right? And we're in an era where we're joined with, we're seeing things here that are reminiscent of what we've seen in Montreal, Toronto, Dallas, Texas, London. So it's a global phenomenon. At some point, we're going to have an extended, serious, informed conversation about how young people in our communities that grew up, that are part of the Boston community, their families are part of the Boston community, how they end up in a parking lot in Roslindale drawing a knife on police officers and being shot dead. How does a kid who graduated from Brookline High, who has studied internationally, whose mother is a nurse, when I heard about it, I called people in the Muslim community that I knew, and they were in shock. They were surprised. It was confusion. How could this happen? And so this is a very new and evolving, fast-moving phenomenon. I think there are probably other young people in our community who are at risk, and we don't have a simple profile, right? This young man was part of the Boston community. We also have a lot of immigrants who are new to the Boston community. And so there's a lot, it's a very dynamic, fluid, new, and frightening proposition. One of the things we have to do is it just means we're going to have to build those alliances, the communication between religious communities, between neighborhoods, between the citizens and the government all the more. That's the only way I see we can deal with this.